All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast. I am here today with Shantel Brooks, beautiful inside out Shantel Brooks. And I am so excited for her to be able to share with us some things. We're going to be talking about working with your spouse today and how that benefits you and the ups and downs of it and just all of the good things. I love Shantel. Shantel is such a beautiful soul. I think I met her. We did a walking challenge, I want to say in 2023.
Yeah, I can't believe
2023.
it's
We
already
did
that.
we did a marriage walk challenge in 2023. And so I met her through LinkedIn and we connected and we did that challenge and I've loved her ever since. Beautiful spirit and such the example of a kingdom wife mom boss. And I just wanted her to be on today to have a conversation with us yes. To have a conversation with us to share her life with us. So hey Chantel, how are you doing?
Good, good. And I see we got the green memo. We didn't even coordinate this, but
Oh,
what's
we did
up?
that. Listen, God be God it. God be God it.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. So tell me a little bit about what's been going on with you. I haven't talked to you in such a while.
Yeah, so hey, I'm Chantel. As you mentioned, work with my husband, Troy. We are partners, spouses who are business partners. And we we joined this assignment. This assignment was delivered to us from Christ about 3 years ago now. And when we first heard this call, it was just like, okay, this sounds cool. Let's see what happens. And since we have just been on this ride of true transformation, evolution in our spiritual growth and journey and our faith. And it's led to so many opportunities and experiences. And even to this very day, I say we have been on a testimony tour. Like God just continues to show up for us and just rain his favor down on us. And we are so grateful and thankful. And most recently, despite financial hardship and despite just loss and sickness and just near death experiences for family members. Despite all that, God has blessed us with a mortgage that by the grace of God is covered through June of this year. He's blessed us with our kids' school year being covered through the end of this year, and they're in private school, and it's so expensive. Um,
I
he's
remember us having that
blessed us.
conversation. So
Yeah,
yes, yes,
he's
yes.
blessed us with this beautiful office I'm in. I'm in a Thrive co-working office space right now. It is faith-based, and it's a space for entrepreneurs and small business owners. And the CEO met with Troy and I and has blessed us with this office space as a gift. And so now we can be on assignment here and within all the Thrives in the region, just spreading God's word and love. And so yeah, we are on a testimony tour, and that's just like the big things, and even the small things that God has done are huge. But yeah, I'm just radiating and just yeah, living in his promise, and it's exciting, it's tough. Um, but that's where I'm at in this new year, starting this new year off strong. Troy and I are just excited for all that is in store, all that's been brewing over these last 3 years. We're excited to see it come into fruition.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I love what you're saying about testimony tour. Just from how long I've known you, I definitely see like the favor of God upon you and Troy in what it is that you guys are doing. And not that it's just because I want to be perfectly clear, like this girl works. It's not just God like giving her stuff and giving her stuff and giving her stuff. I believe she is obedient to what it is that God instructs her to do in the business to connect with the right people, to put out the right content, to do the right thing. And I am grateful for you that you get to see the fruition of being obedient to God's instruction in your business and in your family and in your home, and that what that obedience is bringing in for you and Troy. I know with Spartners, you have some endorsement deals. And like you said, people are the CEO of the building that you in have blessed you with the office space. Tell us a little bit about what Spartners has brought or blessed you and your husband with. By the way, her husband's name is Troy. How many kids do you have? We didn't go
We
down that
have
road
two.
yet. You have
Yeah,
two
we have
kids.
two children.
Yes,
One
yes,
just turned
yes.
6 and one is 3.5.
And where do you reside?
We are in Metro Atlanta, Georgia. We are native New Yorkers, though. We've been here for about almost like 3.5 years now. And we left on God, following God's call to go and follow. And so, yes.
Before we get on the journey of Spartners, because I love you and Troy's love story, tell us about your love story. How did you guys meet? How did you
Yeah.
guys?
Yeah, so we are childhood friends. We're friends from junior high school, middle school, for people who are not familiar with junior high school terms. And yeah, and I honestly, I hated middle school. I hated that time of year. I was only in this school for 2 years, and so much tragedy happened in those 2 years. And yet, that is where I met Troy, and he was always kind to me. We were always friends, and through social media, you're able to stay in touch through Facebook. And we kind of like rode around the same community. So I'd bump into him and he'd invite me to parties. He used to be a party promoter, and I was definitely a party girl. I was out in these streets. And so,
Yes.
um, and so he would invite me out, and I never went. We were both engaged previously, and it was always just very platonic, very, very friendly. And one day, he moved to LA, ran into a mutual friend, and she's like, "Oh, I ran into Troy," and I look at his page, and I'm like, all of a sudden, his Facebook profile picture just looks different, and I'm like, "Wait a second,
Oh,
let me
okay.
see that." And so
Yes.
then I start scrolling to see if he's still engaged or married or whatever it is. I don't see any evidence of any female in his life. You just see like that he's dating. You see like two hands with like martini glasses or something. So yeah, but
That's
no,
funny,
nothing was.
Chantel.
Yes, that's a whole story. That's a whole thing. And so it worked. That was his goal and it worked. So he's
Oh,
outside, he's outside, but no one committed to. But that he was a man of God, that he served at a church, and that he was into fitness. He was a small group instructor and also a personal trainer. And so I was like, you know what? Let me hit him up and see if he wants to train me. And I had no business going into New York City. I lived in the suburbs of the city at the time. And so I had no business going 45 minutes into the city just for a workout when I could get it right around the corner.
I
And I
love
did.
the shame. I love
Yeah.
the no shame. Like, girl, I saw it and I
Listen,
went for it.
exactly, exactly. And literally, we started exclusively dating within like a couple months after then, broke up like 2 months after that, because of just some like I just didn't I needed him to be a certain way and that he wasn't. And I was like, because I had dated, I had already been engaged. I already knew exactly what my boundaries were. I knew what I expected. And he rose to the occasion. And so in our time off, he did his self-work, got back together, and got engaged a month later. We literally were probably dating for like 3 months of this like span of time. We're engaged that December and married the next year. And this is 10 plus years later. We stand with two
Yes.
kids, Sage and Phoenix. We stand as partners. We stand as a couple who is on fire for the Lord. We're in ministry together. We do our business together. We do everything together. And it's amazing. He's my best friend. And I am just so thankful to God that he put it on my heart to see him differently in that Facebook profile photo.
Oh.
And and that he convicted him to propose to me so soon. Like it was soon. It was quick. In what culture would say, the world would say. And so I'm very grateful for my partner and my best friend. And it feels
Well,
weird doing a interview without him, honestly.
oh, okay. We might. Is she there?
No, he's getting the kids, but it's
Oh,
it's
okay.
we're
Okay.
always together. So I'm
Yeah,
blushing
y'all
even because I'm
are.
like, wait.
Can I be honest with you? I thought about that when I asked you to come on. I was like, I wonder if she's gonna come on by herself or if she's gonna bring you on because I
Next
don't
time.
know y'all to be
Yeah.
apart from on anything. But yes, absolutely. Next time we have to get Troy on here because we definitely appreciate the male perspective. So I love what you said. You said that you had boundaries. You had boundaries and you had standards. And although you went out of your way to like, make sure that you were in his foresight, like that you saw him,
Mhm.
what you were experiencing was not in conjunction with what you wanted. And so you stepped away. And I think every woman who is listening to this, who is not married, who desires to be married, should definitely appreciate that, because in that moment God was able to work on him and work on his heart. And now y'all have this beautiful thing together because you didn't settle for something that you didn't feel in your heart. I think that is absolutely amazing. And now you get to tell us what your journey together has brought you in Spartners.
Yeah, so quick backstory. I was in education for 15 years. I served in all capacities, leadership, founded schools, like whatever, all this. And got to a place of making a great salary, but the and benefits and like financial security, all the things mom and dad raised me to value most. But I felt spiritually bankrupt. I felt like I was dying a slow, painful death. I did not have the relationship with Jesus that I have now, but I was always a believer and I knew I was called for more. I just didn't know how to find that. And so therefore I went from school to school, district to district, position to position, looking for that more, from salary to like better salary, looking for more. And I literally came up bankrupt. And so after 15 years of serving, Troy and I decided that it was time to go. And it's all by the grace of God that we even heard that. But once we heard it, we went, and that's a whole story. But we moved to Metro Atlanta. We had no friends here, no family. We've never even visited Atlanta or the
Wow.
surrounding parts. We just literally drove through Georgia once to like go to Florida. But that's it. And so,
To my neck of the woods.
so
No, it's okay.
yeah, so we knew nothing about it. And Troy came down here. I was 8+ months pregnant with our second child. And he found a house for us within a matter of days. We put an offer in a competitive market, 2021. We weren't even competitive buyers, but we were faithful ones. And go figure, the buyers who or the sellers who accepted our offer were pastors, and they loved our letter. And so, so yeah, we moved in 3 weeks. We closed 3 weeks later, moved in 3 weeks after that, and started this life. And so, just having a baby 3 weeks after that, literally that August. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna use these like next 7 to 8 months to figure out what I'm going to do, because I finally left my career, which took so long because these are all of our benefits. Troy was always the entrepreneur. We always said like it's gonna be him. He's the reason that we have fun, but I'm the reason that we have like a roof over our head, right? I was the breadwinner, I was the stability, and that's necessary. You need stability.
Yeah.
And so when I left the job, his business of content creation was doing really well where I could leave the job. But I also knew that within like 7 to 8 months, I was going to need to like be making some income to support our house and our family. So every day I was like, okay, I'm going to try to be a doula. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I had so many ideas and thoughts of what I wanted to do. And I was reading all the books and what am I, and I wasn't in prayer as much. Like I was praying, but I definitely wasn't like fasting. I just didn't have that discipline yet. But then as the time was progressing, I'm starting to get like deeper into prayer, and I started getting deeper into like focus and awareness. And one day I found myself um, typing, like doing whatever work I'm doing, and I see Troy playing with our little one. And I'm just like, man, I feel like this is too reminiscent of how it was when I was in the office. Now I'm just at home, but we're still separate. And the point of leaving was so that way we can have more autonomy together, that we can build more family moments together, that I didn't have to miss out on everything. And that way we can truly do life together. And so he had always been asking me to help or just to work with him. And I was helping him in content creation. He's a social media influencer, had a really great brand going, and I'd help with like back end stuff, but I never respected the job at all. I was like, yeah. Go do your social media influencer thing. I'm gonna do real work. I'm gonna help save lives in schools, okay? So so I'm like, you know what? So I'm like, I'm gonna join you. And he was like, seriously? So I'm like, yeah. So we officially become Spartners. We didn't call it that yet. We officially start working together, and literally in the matter of like 2 to 3 months tops, our relationship went from what we thought was great, but we'll just say good, because when you take a step back, you're like, oh, it was just good. It went from good to great in our intimacy. So we were just way more intimate on another level where, because we're working towards a common goal, our his emotional needs and my emotional needs all of a sudden started getting met. I didn't realize how much I needed affection or valid or affirmation from him until being in that space and being around him so often. Because before, when I was working, I'd probably see him like 2 hour, an hour and a half a day, maybe of like actual little quality time, not just like roommates. And we thought that was healthy. We thought that was good. Like that's what I grew up in. That's what we see in the world. You work, you come home, you make dinner, you do this, you put the kids down, you could watch a show for an hour and you go to bed. Um, and so now we have so much time that really accelerated our level of intimacy. It accelerated our level of communication. I used to be super passive aggressive. And now that we had a goal, I couldn't be passive. And I also know that he doesn't respond well to aggression. So I had to just be assertive. And it helped me get out of this, like, whatever state I was in to communicate better and communicate the way he needed me to communicate with him. And same thing for him to communicate with me. It helped him let go of his ego and share the fact that like, hey, you know what, she is pretty smart and gifted and she is a leader. Let me trust her. So he learned to trust me. He learned to let down his ego and receive the help that he said that he wanted. And so and that transferred into our marriage, right? And so
Yes.
all of these things that we were working on it, that we are experiencing professionally, transferred into our marriage. And so we're like, whoa. So as partners, we now are like, we got to tell other people about this. Like, this can't just be a secret because we thought we were great. We really thought we were great. We were committed. We had fun together. But that intimacy, that connection, that communication was definitely not great. Like, as like you don't know what you don't know, right? So once you're exposed to something new, you're like, wow, this is how it's supposed to be. And
Yeah.
that's how we were. And so that just set us ablaze to help other couples who are Christian couples, who are couples in a healthy state, go from being good to great by by trying to work with each other. And it doesn't have to be full time like we do, part time in ministry, just something for you two to work together beyond raising your children and beyond managing your household, but actual like projects and tasks that impact other people. And so God put this on us to start Spartners and be on assignment to help couples discover the value in working with each other as business partners to not only build a fruitful marriage and home, but also impact the community at large in God's kingdom. And since then, we've been on this mission. We wrote a book called Spartners that helps couples just do that, really change the mindset. So we released our book last summer. Spartners opened the door into our pastoral leadership role. So now, last year, we went to Hope Experience Church to speak to its congregation about marriage and the journey to oneness and how we've been called to take dominion over our territory by working with your spouse. Your spouse is your best partner for you. And so we wanted to help couples and churches experience what the beauty is in the partner sitting beside you beyond just like your everyday fun, but in true work that impacts community. And so from there, we became associate pastors at the church. They're like, well, this is amazing. We see more in you than this one-off experience. And so did we. And so through prayer, we decided to join on as associate pastors at Hope Experience Church. We get ordained this year. Woo woo. So super
Ooh.
excited about that. And that has just opened up a whole new world of how we serve together and love on people together. And so we now also work in at the intersection of marketplace and ministry. So Spartners has also opened the door to not just couples, but like so our heart is still totally in couples, but also for entrepreneurs who want to have kingdom businesses. And so we step into this space at Thrive co-working space, which happens to be faith-based and filled with entrepreneurs. And now Spartners has helped us now get into here to help entrepreneurs become anchored in Jesus and grow their businesses with their faith. And so here, we're brand new here, but we have big ideas and plans for how we'll be able to spread God's love here. And so we're super excited. We've been doing different talks and podcasts and workshops with creators, with people who are trying to have brands but want to know like how do I walk this out in obedience? How do I walk this out with faithfulness? How do I walk this out when it seems so hard? And so it's been, Spartners has just opened the door for so many things. We also have a podcast, we have our Instagram page, but it's just opened the door and gave us given us access to really help people and grow closer to Jesus, so that way he gets the glory, and that way we can truly start transforming and impacting communities of people that we serve here and abroad. So Spartans, we can just go on for days. I know I already did go on for days. I'm sorry. But it's just opened
No,
the door for so
Chantel.
many things.
I love it. I love of you explaining the journey that you guys have been on. I think it is so important for people to hear. Also because like I said, y'all, she has been favored time and time after again, time and time again, just for being obedient to what it is that God has instructed for her to do in every single season. And some of those seasons I can tell was hard. You're picking up and you're leaving your job and going into ministry together and going into business together. Those aren't things that are super easy. Those things are hard and they're a little rough. And just because of the faithfulness, I appreciate you telling the journey because that lets people know that being faithful or being obedient to what it is that God instructs for you to do in your business, because we are talking to King Wife Mom bosses, and a lot of these ladies that listen have businesses and they are married. And so just being obedient to what it is that God is instructing for you to do in every season brings about a fruition of God's promises and God's fruits. And I know that that can be incredibly appreciated for someone to hear. So no, you did not go on for days. You told us exactly what we needed to hear. And you said something that was so key. And well, not so key, but key for people who want to work together with their spouses, but they cannot leave their 9 to 5 jobs. You said that working together just in something outside of raising children and managing a household. And I think that that is so beautiful for them to be able to know and to understand that there are other avenues and other ways that you can increase your intimacy and increase your bond and work together. And I love that Spartners looks at that and not just looking at everyone to be an entrepreneur, because in real life, God did not create everyone to be an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, but He did create us to be in covenant. And so there are kingdom wives out there who are wanting to know, how do I work together with my husband on an avenue that isn't entrepreneurship that's going to help us to grow and to connect? Your story is a beautiful story of not just spiritual growth but self growth and connection, and how that looks just on an average person. Not saying that you're an average person, because you're not an average person, but just how that can look if somebody would just give their yes, and how that has grown into ministry. And I was going to get into that a little bit later, but how's ministry been going for you and Troy?
Oh man, it's amazing.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. It definitely is heavy and comes with so much responsibility and so much like you don't know how much your heart can actually feel. It's like your heart is a muscle, and it's not like a cup, right? Where you could just pour it in water and it overflows and you're just like, okay, like what do I do with the rest? Like it just keeps expanding to hold. And so um, I have such a servant heart. Troy has a servant heart. We love to serve, and so it's amazing because I was starving to serve, and I didn't know how I was starving to serve. I just know that I felt hungry to serve more
I
when
remember
I
us
was in
having that
different
conversation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm no longer like starving, but now it's like, okay, now that my desire to serve is being met, now how can I do it with the level of excellence to truly represent God and the house of God that we are creating? And so um so I really enjoy it. I love it. And that comes with spiritual warfare, right? And so it's not all like daisies and lilacs. So I love to serve in this capacity. I'm so grateful that God has used me and chosen me to carry out his work and be his hands and feet in the way that I serve. And I serve in a way I oversee next steps and communications. And so for people out there like, oh, does she like talk from the pulpit every Sunday? Like, no, that's not me. I love that there's a space for people like me that have a really strong Good eye for operations, logistics, helping
Yes.
people take their next step on their spiritual journey, making sure people feel supported and connected. We are all about loving deep and living wide, and so I help create those atmospheres or those systems and structures so people can do that. And so I love doing that. I of course love pouring on people, praying with people. And so yeah, so it's great. But like I said, it also does come with spiritual warfare. It comes with attacks at any time. And so it's forced Troy and I to really get in, like we're already in the word, but like stay in the word, be surrounded by people who are prayer warriors. I'm constantly praying over us, and I encourage y'all to pray over your pastors because it is not easy at all whatsoever. And so I love it and it's great. We're in a revival of our church. We're about to celebrate our second birthday. It's amazing what we are creating. It's also heavy. And so but I honestly wouldn't want to be doing anything else. It's truly what lights me up daily. So it's going
Um,
really well.
I'm gonna be honest, girl. We're gonna have an honest conversation because last year, when did this journey start? It had to be January because I remember I invited you to a conference and you were gonna go, but you had something else going on at your church. And you told me that you guys were going to start the process. I'm sorry, that you
Hmm.
guys were going to start the process of becoming pastors. And immediately I thought about the spiritual warfare. Like I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is amazing for them, but and I just began to pray because when I we were, we were talking a lot back then, and I was like, okay, this is my friend, and she's about to go through this process, and I just began to talk to God about it, and I was like, okay, God, what do I do here? Because you always feel like you want to do something, but
Hmm.
I knew that spiritual warfare was going to come along because anytime you're trying to advance in God and do what it is that God is calling for you to do, here come the old enemy with his spiritual warfare.
Hmm.
And in that moment, I just began to pray and to just cover you and Troy and just to ask God to help you guys navigate this because I knew it was going to be a beautiful thing. I just know that sometimes the warfare is heavy, and I'm not a pastor, so I don't know the level of spiritual warfare that you guys have gone through, but I can only imagine. If you've
Hmm.
been called to shepherd a people, if you've been called to a flock, then the spiritual warfare has to be incredibly heavy. But seeing you on social media, I just want to say that I feel like you have been able to navigate that spiritual warfare with grace. And truly, I just thank God for it because He is so amazing at like keeping His people, especially those who are obedient and love Him at heart. And I love that this journey has taken you guys even deeper in God. You said it makes you stay deeper in your Bible and deeper in your word. And I think that that is such an amazing and beautiful thing. And being a Kingdom Wife Mom boss is first off kingdom, right? And so your story is a beautiful example of how you can accomplish so much and have so much and do so much under the will and the grace of God. Because a lot of times in life, I don't know if you saw my post this morning, people think that they have to navigate their own way through. And sometimes their own way is unintentionally malicious and backhanded, but sometimes it's just that. But whenever God brings us to something, He keeps us in that by His grace. And I think your story is such a testimony to how the grace of God brought you into I'm gonna say thrive because I'm a Kingdom Thrive
Hmm.
coach. Your dedication and your obedience to God has brought you into this thrive, and how the grace of God is keeping you in this thrive. And earlier I mentioned some endorsements and stuff that you have done, and I admire especially all of the things, but I am interested in that part of your endorsements and the things that you have been able to I guess the places you have been able to go just because of your obedience and because of Spartners and the intimacy between you and your husband. And so I would love to hear about some of those things.
Yeah, for sure. So one, I wanted to say this before. The word obedience has come up a lot, and so I just want to share that with it's not always. It's usually rare that through obedience we will, though that the one who is being obedient will be able to actually reap the fruit or see the reward here on this side on earth. And so We are so grateful that we're able to see the fruits um, and start to see the fruit because it's been some time in motion. It's like, okay, Lord, please. But we stay faithful, we stay obedient, and so we're so grateful that we can experience these blessings here on earth. But we also know that it's very possible that at any moment we might not, and it's not going to waver. It's not going to have us waver. We're going to remain obedient, knowing that God keeps his promises, whether here on earth or in the kingdom of heaven. And so I just want to just speak life into those who might be saying, like, I've been doing this for 7 years. I've been obedient. I've submitted, surrendered. I've done all the things, and it's still not here. And like on that brinking point. And I just want to encourage you that it's very possible you might not see those fruits, but it just makes it all the more sweeter and better when you get to the other side in heaven. And so yeah, so I just want to
Okay,
share
wait, now because
that.
now I have to add to that
Okay.
because I think that you have to have a joy in what it is that God is instructing for you to do in the season. And I also believe you have to have a deep conversation with God where God is telling you specifically things. So, like, just giving an example, if God says, "Hey, I need you to do this in order to get this," and not necessarily in that terms because God doesn't do that. He just tells you some instructions, and at the end of those instructions, you find out what it is that you've been working
Hmm.
for. But sometimes God will very specifically give you instructions. And it's not that you're working for a specific thing, but for you, God told you to move and you moved. Right? For you, God told you to start Spartners and you start Spartners. For you, God told you to do all of these things and you were so obedient. And it wasn't that you were looking for a reward. You were
Hmm.
just enjoying the process of what it is that God was instructing for you to do. So I love the key that you just gave them. Sometimes you're not going to see the thing that you think you're going to see, but enjoy the process and knowing that it is the grace of God that is carrying you through, and He is taking you to whether it is here on earth or whether it is after, whether it is for your generations to come, and whatever it is, having joy in the process of what it is that God is instructing for you to do is key in making sure
Hmm.
that you stay the course in obedience, regardless of what you see in front of you. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. Yeah, and we talk about having this open hand posture. And so part of being obedient is keeping an open hand so that way when God tells you to do something, your hand is open, or he gives you something, your hand is open to receive. But when he's like, okay, this is not the season anymore. Okay, it's time to go. That your
Yes.
hand is not closed onto it. Now you're fighting. Because to be
Yeah.
very honest, there was a time last year with Spartners where we were just like, listen, if it wasn't for God, not if it wasn't for God not telling us to, if it wasn't for God, how should I say this? We wanted to let partners go for a second, our marriage ministry piece, because we fell so deep into our church ministry that's where all of our attention was going. That's where all of our efforts were going. And then we're also like, okay, well, we still need to continue on this assignment. And we would have let it go if it wasn't for this open hand. We would have wanted to just be like, take it. But God did not remove it. So we follow God's lead. We're not in front of him. And so when he's ready to say, okay, you know what? It's partners for marriage, like it's like you're done. I'm ready to take that. Okay. But because he hasn't done that yet, and it wasn't that joyful for some time. It's like we don't want to do this. But we said, you know what? He's given this to us. And so we are going to find the joy. He's not done with us yet. And so we must put our focus and our attention back into this. And girl, when we did that, all of a sudden, all these blessings, like there's a lot of things, but all these blessings started coming that I started this conversation with all this abundance literally since Thanksgiving. And so and we see that as God saying, you see, I just told you, just be obedient. Just, and so yeah, so open
I call
hand
him the puzzle
helps with
master.
obedience.
I call him the puzzle
Oh,
master. Because God
yeah,
has given us a
yeah.
puzzle and we have no clue how they're going to fit together. We have all of these gifts, all of these talents, all of these opportunities, all of these things. And sometimes for us, it's overwhelming when we're looking at this puzzle and these pieces are not together. It's overwhelming. But God knows how
Hmm.
to fit this thing together so beautifully to
That's
where
amazing.
we thought we had to let something go. We thought we had to walk away from something. And sometimes God will have us walk away for a season, but He'll have us walk away for a season and then come back to it. I know for me, this year God said focus on the podcast. And so everything else that I was doing before is automated. I'm still, doing it, but he said automated. I need your focus to be here. And
Mhm.
for me, it's required for me to be obedient to what it is that he's instructing, because I have to remember that everything that I'm doing is not me, it's not my own, it is him, it is for his glory, and it's to serve his people. And since he is the puzzle master and he knows exactly what puzzle piece he's putting down next, my only answer has to be yes. And
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes that's a struggle. Sometimes it's a struggle finding the joy in the situation. But
Yeah.
you said something that was so key. And I think I've talked about this on every podcast: community. Community is so important. Surrounding yourselves with prayer warriors and intercessors and friends that lift you up and friends that encourage you and motivate you is key in working in the operation or the instructions of what it is that God has called for you to do. And girl, puzzle master. Because sometimes I'm like, well, God, how does this piece fit up in here? And he's like, just do what I told you to do. I'll show
Uh-huh.
you later. I'll let you
Yes.
see the picture later. And it is a faith walk. That is,
Mm-hmm.
it's a faith walk. Being a
Mm-hmm.
faith business is a faith walk. Kingdom Wife Mom Boss is being faithful, or having faith in what it is that God is instructing for you to do in your marriage, with your children, in your home, and in your business, and just knowing that he has the greater picture and he is
Mm-hmm.
putting all of these things together. And so waking up and saying, God, how do I do this, and what do you want me to do, and how do you want me to show up, and do I put this down, and do I pick this up? Just listening to what it is that God is instructing for you to do is a beautiful thing. And I'm so glad that it brought you guys so many blessings.
Oh
Um,
yeah, absolutely. And
but
the blessing being, I know you wanted to talk about the endorsements, and so
yes, yes.
yeah, so
Look, we got all
us.
God just be taking us places. It's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we have so one of our major areas of business is brand partnerships. And so so that's what we've been able to monetize our social media platform. And so we are brand ambassadors with LOB, which is an amazing, amazing outdoor brand. We were ambassadors with Traeger grills. We've had partnerships with Dyson and Pampers and ADT and goodness. I mean, I'm just trying to look around
Dribble
to
up.
see who we've dribble up. Yep, we do. The big blanket. I'm drawing Dick's Sporting Goods, like so pretty much like the popsicle companies. Listen, they're not paying me for this commercial break right now. But so many we've worked with so many different brands from across the world, and we're able to profit over $500,000 in brand deals. Um, that is something that we enjoy helping other people learn how to do. For us, it's interesting because similar to my job, it's like, yeah, like we know every dollar's not a good dollar. And so while we definitely love to help entrepreneurs and creators learn how to monetize their brands. Um, More than that, we want them to learn how to walk boldly in who they are and who God designed them to be. So it's funny because when we talk about being obedient, about like a year and a half ago, we were feeling what's the word? We were feeling like our platform wasn't being stewarded well. We were making all this money, like 5-figure months, right? And all these brand deals, and it was great, but we were super frivolous with it. And one day we are just like, man, we're using our platform that God's given us to like talk about these random brands and help people like and help these brands get money. But like, that's it. Like, where's the service in that? Like, it's like a paid for service and it's not spiritual. And so we decided to step boldly out via social media on who we were as believers and have no more lukewarm content. And as a result of that, on Troy's page is our monetized page. I do a lot of UGC content. So that means I do content for brands I don't have to post. You might just see it on a random commercial somewhere or when you're scrolling, but I don't have to post it for Troy. Most of our brand deals are posted on his page because they leverage his audience. And so his following. And so anyways, we did that and Troy lost a third of his followers when he started proclaiming Jesus as his Lord and Savior daily. We got way less brand deals, which is what led us into a financial hardship. Um, we were able to maintain our biggest brand ambassadorship, which is the company LL Bean that we love. I wear everything LL Bean all day long. We rep LL
Yes.
Bean forever and ever. But yeah, it really impacted our business. And it also is such a huge part of that. I don't even want to call it spiritual warfare because it was learning. We had to learn how to steward our resources better. And so we went from five-figure months to literally like $0 months consecutively. And we learned that you develop but that bad habits are developed in good times and good habits are developed in bad times. And so we're able to restructure our whole mindset around money and our resources. And it just has impacted us so much. And so, anyways, I know we talked about endorsements and I'm kind of taking it a different way, but
Oh, I
the
love it.
point is that yes, you can monetize your brand, but just know your why. Is it to just like be able to supply like a side hustle and like, pay some bills? Is it to just, become your primary source of income and to pay your mortgage? Whatever like your surface level why is, also have a deeper level why. As a kingdom wife, mom, boss, it's important that glorifying God is in there. And you might not get as many brand deals at once or whatever the case may be. But for us, we know that God is a provider. And so it is not about that. We pray for the thing and not necessarily the vehicle anymore of how to get there. And so we want to be able to maintain our household, keep our kids in school, have a lifestyle where we can just, have some margin, have a good time here and there. And God's going to do that. God will provide as he does because we are being obedient and we are using and leveraging the influence and the platform he's given us to glorify him, to point people to him. And
Yes.
so while we still do work with brands, we get brand deals, we are in partnerships right now and we love the brands that we work with. We're excited to represent them, but we're not going to pretend and shy away from who we are as creators and as a brand. And so they know that we are believers. And so do we need to say like, hey, this is lip gloss and this will like bring you closer to Jesus? No, we don't need to make every post that we're selling something, you know what I mean? But they know who we are. And that's something that we did not do when we made all that money. And so God has showed us so much in that. And so to my friends out there looking to monetize their brands on social media, it's definitely a lucrative market. Just stay true to you, be authentically who you are, and don't waver on your faith, and allow it to show up.
I
Yes,
think
that's my
that
spiel.
Yeah, I think that is amazing. I think the warfare in that would be mental, not necessarily like what was happening, but
Mhm.
how it affects mentally. Like you're thinking,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, these brand deals are like we don't have this anymore. And I'm so grateful that you and Troy got to a place where you were more intimate with God, where God was able to walk you through that process and walk you through that time. Because I mean, I'm not in the situation, but just thinking about it, I could imagine that some thoughts came into your mind, but God is so amazing at cleaning out the old and bringing in the new, right? So the old way of
absolutely.
doing things has to go, and the new way of doing things in Him has to be present. So giving Him the glory and, oh God, and He blesses us in those times of giving Him the glory, and He shows us that. It's about his glory and it's about his promises, and he's the one who allows things to come and he's the one that allows things to go. And God is so amazing at that. And I listen, girl, are you still I know you did have a class or a group. You got so much going on. You had a class or a group where you were teaching brand endorsements. And I think you kind of stopped it for a little bit, which if I'm just if I'm just looking from the outside in, I feel like it was great that after you stopped that, God took you through this process of making sure that you announce to the world that even in these brand endorsements that he is God and that
Mhm.
he is the one that is faithful. And I don't know how Troy took that when a third of his following left, but I hear that story so often where influencers say that they, introduced to their followers that they were a Christ follower and they no longer followed them. My coach actually, she did, I don't know, you know Kelly Williams?
Yeah.
And she did the 90 days of prayer at the very end of
Mhm.
2024. And she said she lost a lot of followers, but man, I think that that's so key, the cleaning out process. God is letting us know in that moment that it's not about the numbers. Like these people can go. I have assigned very specific people for you to impact and for you to touch. And these people are going to be there, and the words that you're speaking and the things that you're doing is going to be for my glory in their lives, and it's going to help them. And I remember when I started coaching however many years ago, I was talking to my coach and she was asking me what kind of coach was I. And I remember in that moment, I am a coach who likes to see the change. A coach who likes to see the effects of things. I don't care how many clients I have. I want to see that what we're talking about and what we're doing is actually being effective in your life. And it sounds like that's the process that God has begin to take you guys through, or continue to take you guys through, as far as your endorsements and the people that you connect with and on your journey. And it's such a beautiful space, such a beautiful journey.
It
I
is.
love that.
Thank you. You said it so well. And Troy, you know, he was grateful because we know that we are of the place of like go. Like if this ain't we ain't for everyone, and that's fine. And so we want prayer warriors. We're sharing, we're lifestyle creators. So we're sharing personal things on there. We want people who are going to pray for us. So we're not just a highlight reel platform. We share it all. And
That's equal
um
meaning.
yeah. And so it's important. So he was actually like on the business side brands look for people who have you must have like 30,000 followers. You must have 50,000 followers to get a certain amount of money for different partnerships. And so when you drop like 15,000 followers, that puts you into a different bracket. And so there's less deals, there's less income. But what it taught, and so we were fine with that, and it strengthened our faithfulness muscles because then we saw how God still was able to provide for us and then some. And so it's all like it's all a circle. And I will say something that felt amazing is with LL Bean. Not only did they keep us, but Spartners has also led for us to build even a stronger relationship with them since where we are going there. They're flying us out there in this coming spring to speak to their whole headquarters about um, diversity, equity, and inclusion of Black creators in these spaces and our
So
experience.
amazing, Chantel.
And they also asked for us to share about our pastoral journey. Like what?
Yes.
So, right? And so it's like to feel to not only feel seen, valued, and known, but to actually like to experience it and to say like, wow, that is these are the kind of brands that we will always go above and beyond for, that we will always represent, wear proudly. This is nothing paid for because you know what? We feel seen. And so we also consult with brands to help them be better at helping their creators like want to talk about them, right?
You just
And so,
listed like in the time of our conversation, my God, you've just listed like 15 avenues to which God, I mean, it is so amazing. And you
it's
know that it's
crazy.
only by His grace that He keeps you in all of these areas and keeps you with the right mind and allows you to say the right things and do the right things and connect with the right people. Like it's such a blessing. And I'm just looking at it, just thanking God for it because God is so amazing. I'm sorry, I completely did not mean to go down this road because you were talking, but yesterday we were talking about new mercies and new grace, and every day is a miracle. And every day we wake up is a miracle. Every day we wake up is a new mercy. Every day that we wake up is a new grace. And for you, the how amazing that you get to wake up every morning and do something with these new mercies. You get to impact people, you get to impact companies, you get to impact the church, you get to impact your marriage and your family. And I think that is just such a beautiful thing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. No, no, and you know, and when you were saying that, I was like, with my husband, with my spouse, with my partner, with my
Yes,
husband, and so I get to do that alongside the person that God sent me. And
yes.
we never, like he'd say he saw this, I never saw this for us. And so the fact that we're here doing this in all these different avenues together, um, it's just like you said, a testament. And so just like wrapping it back into being with your partner and having your spouse be the best partner for you. Like there's no one else Like who else in your life can you literally live in all these worlds with? It's literally
Right.
all the worlds. It's
Like
like
he
so
was
all
picked
encompassing.
specifically for you, and you were picked specifically for him. And on your
Right.
journey of unity, God has just been able to bless you time and time and time again. That is a beautiful love story.
Thank you. And I believe that for so many of your couples who are listening, that your wives, you've been picked for your husband, and husbands, you've been picked for your wives. And so this isn't, we're not unique. We're not just like the one-off couple that like only exists once and ever. Like, no, there's so many of us, and you have to cultivate that. You have to nourish that. You have to believe that it's possible, and be open to allowing God to speak to you, and submit and surrender and be obedient through that journey. And will it be difficult? Will there be arguments? Will there be whatever? Absolutely, right? We're people. But will there be favor? Will there be blessings? Will there be
Yes,
fruitfulness? Absolutely, because
God
his
honors
promises
it.
are forever. Yes. And so long as you're hearing it, like you said, from God, and you're walking with him, not in front of him, not pulling him to try to follow you, then we believe it's so possible. So yeah.
Love that. I love hearing your faith journey from the time that we've met. I'm just gonna share this with some of those couples that are listening that are like, my marriage is nowhere near that. I just want you to know that when you go to God and you ask God about your marriage and God tells you to stay in a place or God tells you to do a thing in your marriage, even if you feel like you're not to where you want to be, just be faithful. Continue to stay in prayer, pray for your partner that God will be able to I want to say that God will be able to direct him in a way that is in unity in what it is that God has decreed for your kingdom marriage. And just know that even with struggles and even with ups and downs, God promises are true, and you have to hold on to those promises. You have to stay with your mindset on those promises, because sometimes when the enemy comes in, he comes in and he makes you think that you're not going to be successful. You're not going to have what it is that God has spoken over your kingdom marriage. And Chantel's story is such a beautiful story. And I think it's such a blessing for her and her husband in the Spartners journey and everything that it has brought, their marriage and their life, everything that it has brought. But I do know that that's not everybody's story. So I don't want anybody to be discouraged, because I know that it can be hard to be discouraged. But just know that if you just stay focused on what it is that God has decreed for your marriage, even through trouble, stay focused on what it is that God has decreed for your marriage, and things can get better. I just want you to be encouraged that things can get better in your kingdom marriage. And so before we sign out of here, Chantel, I want to ask if you have any tips that you can give kingdom wives or kingdom couples. And also, do you have any useful systems or strategies that you and your husband have implemented into your marriage or into your business that have helped you overcome any troubles or any struggles or get to a better place of thriving?
Yeah. Oh, okay. One, I want to kind of piggyback off of what you were just saying. Uh, so this is where we are right now. This is definitely not where we started. As the breadwinner, as a very type A, controlling, like perfectionist, like all the things woman. The last thing I wanted to do was submit to my husband. And
Girl, we're
when
gonna have to
I
have a whole
had
nother podcast about submission, because I don't even.
Yeah. And I had a whole encounter with Jesus. I really did. And from there, I was like, okay, I'm going to submit to you, because I was definitely trying to control my life as well, of course. And I'm going to submit to him. And yes, Troy was a believer, like obviously he's a believer. He was seeking a relationship with Jesus. So I could trust that he had a relationship with God. And I know there are some husbands out there that don't necessarily have a relationship yet. And so I would encourage wives to be praying. Stay praying about your husband's relationship with Jesus. Continue to show him, your husband, what a kingdom wife looks like. And so he can see God's favor on you and his light through you. But for those who do have husbands who are trying and seeking and building a relationship with Jesus, I would just encourage you to pray for the ability to submit, to surrender, whatever it is. And once I did that, it definitely took some time. It was freeing, y'all. It was so freeing. And so I know I don't want to go off. I just want to give tips, but try to submit to your husband, experience the freedom in that that you don't have to be in control of everything. Submission, husbands, doesn't mean that your word is bomb. Like that's it. It's still conversation. Okay. It's still collaboration.
She's like, get it
Um,
together.
yes, yes. But that is the case for us in both marriage and business. And so, know your lanes, right? Know like you're in a partnership together. So know your lanes and stick to that. And so if my lane is like technical stuff and an email is supposed to go out, like I know at the end of the day, I'm the one responsible. If he's the relational guy and he's supposed to make a connection, he's responsible. So we're not going to cross over each other's lanes. But at the end of the day, when it comes to big visionary stuff for the family, for the business, if it is a pull, I have to trust that God has my husband's hand so tight and that he is discerned and I have to submit. But again, that's a whole nother conversation. And it took
Listen, I'm
time
writing
and prayer.
down what our next podcast is going to be about,
Okay.
be about with Troy.
Yeah, yeah. But that was a huge, that's like literally my biggest tip. And I know it comes with a lot to unpack because I didn't just wake up and do that. But that has truly been the most freeing for me as a type A woman to be able to have a successful, happy, fulfilling, productive relationship in marriage and business with my husband. So that was key. And the second huge tip, as I mentioned this, is know your space and own it and lean into it. I'm actually more introverted. I'm like I like to be behind the scenes. Like I'd like to. Troy is very extroverted. He's a people person. If you look at our work schedules, you'd see my calendar, tons of meetings, tons of like stuff, and you see his calendar, coffee dates, out to lunch, like all the fun stuff. And for some time, I used to feel resentment of like, wait, I'm the one doing all the work. And he used to feel like he's not living up. And it used to really mess with his confidence. And there would be tension because he's trying to be me. And but I had to realize that, you know what, you're actually catching all the opportunities. I wouldn't be typing up an email if I had no one to type it to. But you're out in the streets being relational, which is the number one thing to be as a disciple of Christ. You're out here being that disciple, catching the fish, and I'm going to just be my person and like, do the logistics, operational stuff.
Everything.
Obviously, very important too, right? But he had to see like, wow, this matters. And I had to be like, that really matters. And so let me like be proud because it's exhausting for me sometimes to be out here in the streets. I'm just not, it could be exhausting.
Yes,
So
yeah. And Troy definitely seems like an outgoing people person, like love to
yeah,
talk to
yeah.
people, and yeah.
Yeah. So know your lane. And I'm talking about extrovert, introvert, but your lane but there's so many different lanes, right? Like so just know what it is and stick to that. So those are my two big tips. Submit and know your lane. And respect your lane and lean into your lane and strategies, tools. So we definitely have date nights like that's even at home, even through a financial hardship. We were still having dates at home. We do that very often. We have a 222 method. You might have heard it before, but like two dates, uh, a date every 2 weeks, a getaway, a small getaway, stay home, vacation, something, especially if you have family support with kids, if you have kids, but some sort of weekend every 2 months, and then a vacation every 2 years. Our goal is like two vacations a year, but right now, once every 2 years, you know what I'm saying? We got to slow and steady, slow and
I'm not gonna
steady.
lie, I don't like the one vacation every 2 year part. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm
I
like, this is
know.
way too long. I gotta go.
I know. And this is solo, not with family, not with
Right,
kids, just like,
right.
yeah. And so we have little ones, so we're still like, but no, but yes, yes, yes. So that's just like a super easy tip. Intimacy matters, and coming from someone who's so always like ready to work, like I'm a recovering workaholic, I've had to really lean into the stop. Let's relax. Let's have a glass of wine. Let's watch a movie. Let's go for a walk. Let's just chill. And that took me some time to like, especially as an entrepreneur, you feel like you have to work around the clock.
Right.
But then you're showing that you're trying to take control and not depend on God. And so Troy was just like the vehicle of like, let's just go on a date. But what was really happening was I was depending on God to cover, to have my six. And so really I have his six, right? He's using me. I'm not
Yes.
using him. And so that really helped. And so for my workaholics out there, allow God to God and you enjoy your husband, go on a date, close the laptop, okay? So, and I know you moms out there. I know I'm not alone. I know I'm in like company, but
And
it's
you are
okay to
girl.
press pause, set boundaries for yourself, for your marriage, for your family, and invest in you. And the third thing is Sabbath moments. If you can't practice Sabbath on a whole day, at least find moments of Sabbath throughout your days. And that could be 5 minutes, that could be an hour a day, that could be top of the morning before you go to bed, but just make sure you're finding time where you can just be with Jesus, that you can just be in peace without distractions and without feeling like you need to do something. All right.
Those are some very, very, very beautiful and key points. I very just recently started just having a day where I don't feel like I have to do something. And when that feeling starts to rise up, I'm like, no, I'm not doing it.
Mhm.
It's so important because it drives you crazy if you're constantly going, going, going and never resting. So Chantel, you have been beautiful. As always, beautiful inside and out and giving wisdom and just giving words of edification and strengthening to other Kingdom Wife Mom bosses. I am going to take this moment to implement because we have been talking about these things that the Fortified Wife Challenge is still out there. So for those kingdom wives who desire more for their marriages and they're struggling a little bit for their marriages, and they just don't know how to really work against the enemy that is working in their marriage, the Fortified Wife Challenge is a 14-day challenge of just how to handle spiritual warfare in your kingdom marriage and how to be strengthened and equipped so that you don't feel so overwhelmed by the works of the enemy that the enemy is trying to implement in your marriage and getting the victory over the enemy in your kingdom marriage. That challenge is still out there. You can find that at ClemetraDeshay.com. I want Chantel to tell us how we can connect with her and any adventures that she has going on, any classes or anything that you have going on. Let us know.
Thank you. Well, first, I just want to thank you so much for inviting me on here to be able to share with you and your community. I am part of the community too, so it's a pleasure. So thank you so much. And yeah, I'm on Instagram, Shantel Brooks underscore SHANTEL BROOKS underscore. We have our Spartners page on Instagram as well. We are Spartners is our Instagram handle. You can find us on our website, troyandchantel.com. Um, we we do offer courses and workshops. We don't have a cohort model going on right now. However, we are open. And so if you are interested in learning more, we are happy to talk to you further about getting that started and having a personalized or tailored experience for you and for anyone else who is jumping on board around the same time. And yeah, we are speakers. We love to travel to different churches and different organizations. And so if you'd like to hear more from us about working together or about marriage, we would love to bless you in your community. And so please do reach out to me via the show notes. We're happy to take that next step with you.
Beautiful. And they're gonna be back. It's gonna be her and Troy next time. We got to come back because there's so many things that I would love to talk to you guys about. I think you guys are amazing. So again, thank you so
Thank you.
much for joining. All right, Kingdom Wife Mom Bosses, thank you for joining us on this episode of Kingdom Wife Mom Boss. Make sure you connect with Chantel. That's gonna be an amazing connection for you. And we will catch you on the next episode. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.